Hey guys, so today I wanted to make a video to give a little bit more information about Robbie, and he had a QEEG done on his brain to kind of map his brain and see if there was any misfires going on or abnormalities. Although he does not have any physical abnormalities in the brain, his test was rather interesting, and it did come up with a few different things that I thought might be helpful to share, because they do go along with the type of thinking that he struggles with, and some people don't even know what a QEEG is. So I wanted to kind of share this so that maybe it would help some people who are in a similar situation struggling to know kind of what they would be getting, what kind of information they would be getting from this type of test. Okay, so when Robbie had his QEEG done, he did show a relatively low theta to beta ratio. Generally, it can be associated with ADHD. In his case, it was not associated with ADHD. It does show an elevated frontocentral theta and an elevated theta to beta ratio. So in his situation, this is kind of responsible for reward and punishment. Generally, people who are risky decision makers will show a relatively low theta to beta ratio. So in this situation, he is more likely to make risky decisions and base those decisions off of the reward versus the punishment, and the actual thought of the punishment itself is rather low, but the desire to achieve whatever reward it is very high. Also, there was a good amount of activity, so they got a good reading, so the results of that were rather clear. He also showed a lot of vertex elevations, which are generally associated with pervasive disorders or like your obsessions and your compulsions. And generally people who have vertex elevations are very defiant, and so it makes sense that his thoughts are kind of geared towards like getting what he wants when he wants it versus proper thought processing, where generally people don't obsess so much. In his situation, it does show that he is more geared towards those obsessions. Also, it showed posterior slowing, which is generally related to sensory integration or integration with information. So although you can give him information, he may not be able to fully process it, and so that's why changing his thinking could be incredibly difficult. It also showed alpha intrusion in the temporal lobes. Generally this is associated with like memory, emotional, social. So it does show emotional and behavioral dysregulation in his thinking, which is very difficult to interrupt and make functional. So emotionally, he does not attach to people, which would be that lack of empathy, lack of sympathy type thing. That's a bit dysregulated. And behaviorally, he is likely to make risky decisions, and his ability to make good behavior choices is very low and dysregulated. And the idea of being able to change that in him based on his scan is rather low. He also showed a slight mu rhythm of the alpha, which is associated with that frontal lobe dysregulation, which is generally seen in most pedophiles, if not all pedophiles. Now, not all pedophiles have been brain scanned, so it's hard to say how many times that this is found, but it's generally associated with those types of personality disorders where people lack that empathy and they can't learn through modeling. So correcting his thinking and behaviors will prove to be very difficult, because again, that part of the brain makes it nearly impossible for you to model something, for him to be able to interpret that back and be able to correct it. They did address treatments, different like neuropathy, or not neuropathy, I'm sorry, neurotherapy. And so there are some ways that they tried to regulate that. However, he doesn't really seem to do well necessarily with those types of therapies because of the brain mapping and how his brain functions and works as a whole. So again, there's no physical, so there's no like tumors or lesions or, you know, nothing physical in there, but he does have a lot of dysregulation when it comes to brain mapping. And so I think that's probably why it's so difficult to treat him, because of the amount of dysregulation. Also, some people said that some of his red flags could also be autism or autism spectrum disorder. Absolutely. Robbie is also on the spectrum and was diagnosed with Asperger's level autism. So that's another challenge in his treatment. And some of those symptoms do overlap from pedophilia to autism. Most children on the spectrum, however, do not have those types of thoughts and feelings towards children. So I don't want people to not be informed and just think that these things could be autism spectrum, because there are some things that he has, and they definitely go along with his spectrum disorder, but most of the findings go with his actual thinking and his brain mapping. If you guys have any questions regarding the brain mapping, I am not super great with understanding the results exactly, other than how they were explained to me. I can try and help. There's a lot of research out there, but it's difficult to kind of pinpoint. There's been a lot of studies done through brain mapping. So yeah, definitely I would encourage people to do some research on what a QEEG could do for them or their child. I definitely think it was insightful, and it helped me and his father to understand that there is a dysfunction in the way his brain processes, versus my husband feeling like he failed him in some way, that maybe he should have parented him differently and maybe he would have been different. So yeah, I hope that sharing this information has been helpful. I know a few of you have asked about the brain mapping, and so you know, there's nothing really negative in sharing that, so I wanted to go ahead and do that. I just didn't want to do it before I had the actual paperwork in front of me from the test and was able to kind of go through it and make sure that I was fully understanding what had been administered. They definitely said some of the things can be associated with autism, so that is noted as well. But then again, they said that, you know, like a lot of it is also abusive, like he would have more abusive actions towards others, which is not associated with autism. So, okay, I hope that that was helpful. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'll do my best to answer them. I can't promise that I'll know the answer. If I don't know the answer, I'll just tell you, or I'll try and research it to find some information for you. I hope that everybody has a great rest of your weekend, and thank you as always for the support and the love. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe for further updates. And if you need anything at all, please reach out to me via Facebook, email, or some other avenue of communication. I may not always have the answers, but I will certainly never ignore anyone, and I will do my best to get you the answers. My mission with my channel is to be able to reach people and help people and continue to help people and their families, so that no family has to go through this alone. It has been a very long 2.5 years, and I felt so alone, and much of what I learned was through research on my own, and I wish I would have had another parent who went through this to kind of bounce that off of. That was probably the most difficult part of this, was feeling like I was very alone. And many families who have gone through this will tell you the same thing, which is we're working with a very broken system. And every time you try to ask for help from people who should be helping, basically you hit a dead end wall. And it's frustrating, and you have to keep advocating and keep fighting and just keep going, and sometimes it feels impossible, but you just have to be persistent, advocate hard, and just don't give up. So again, if you need anything at all, please reach out. As for everybody else, thank you so much for the love and support. I appreciate you guys so much and the support, and I truly hope that this can help other families. So far, I've had about 50 families reach out to me, and I've been able to help get them resources. And then I also had a perpetrator reach out to me, and I was able to get him help and also help for his victim. So this has been definitely changing lives for some people, and I do it for those people. I do it for the people who need the information versus the people who are just kind of there just because. But without the people who would be supporting all of us, we could not do it. So thank you so much, because you make it possible for families to come together and get the supports that they need. Okay guys, I am done. I will talk to you soon. Thank you so much, as always. Bye.